Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic episode.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk about the latest episode of Superman and Lois. It was called Complications. And as it begins, we see that Pia seems to have escalated abilities. And she goes on a bit of a ability rampage, wreaking havoc in Metropolis. And Superman can't seem to find where she is for some reason. We see that Lois is undergoing her final preparations for the surgery. We also see Clark explain everything about who he is and all of that to Kyle, but Kyle's pissed at Chrissy for not letting him in on the secret when he had kind of figured out that there was another super person in town. It turns out that, as I suspected last week, not all is well with Pia, and she's showing signs of not actually being cured permanently. Everybody gathers at the farm to have a meal with Lois before the surgery, and Sarah tries to smooth things over with Jordan, but it doesn't go well. And as I said already, I'm Team Jordan. I mean, if she doesn't like him anymore that way, she doesn't like him anymore that way, but he's still in love with her, and she has to stop having a problem with that. She has to stop having a problem with the fact that he wears it on his sleeve and can't seem to hide it, and that it makes her uncomfortable. She has to deal with it. But instead, she scolded him more than once. And sorry, but you don't get to do that. He feels what he feels, and that's the way it is. So, there you go. Lois then actually goes in for her surgery. But soon we're back to Sarah, who can't sleep. She's upset and thinks that Jordan hates her, as well as that her life is over because of her DUI, and Lana is concerned that she might be spiraling. Natalie goes to Mannheim's place looking for Mateo, and she ends up getting tracked there by John, at which point she tries to make the case to John that what Mateo did wasn't that bad, but she's kind of wrong. It kind of was. Sneaking a cure into his mother and letting her loose on the city where now she's causing all kinds of problems. Yeah, big time wrong. Big time wrong. Anyway, I mean, his reasoning, his heart was in the right place. He didn't do it to hurt people, but yeah. Back to the hospital, Jordan has a panic attack while the surgery is being explained to the family, and he starts to develop his X-ray vision, which also freaks him out a little bit. Jonathan helps him with that by helping him do breathing exercises so that he can calm down. Mannheim, Mateo, and Pia are scrambling to get out of town with the help of Mannheim's staff, but Pia suddenly has some kind of a pain attack, an attack of pain, I guess from the cancer, which isn't completely cured. And it sets off her abilities, which ripple through Metropolis, and she's not able to control it. And when this happens, and it's felt at the hospital, Lois realizes that Bruno's cure didn't actually work, which Bruno realizes at the same time, though he seems to think another dose will straighten her out, so he asks his guys to bring another dose. Lana goes to see Kyle to tell him of her concerns for Sarah. Pia gets a second dose, but it doesn't seem to work, and she accidentally splatters a guy. Like her powers go off and they hit this guy and he just splatters. He's atomized. It was like, oh man, it was pretty bad. At that point, she realizes that she's beyond help and she heads off by herself while her powers go off continually out of her control. We then see Lois wheeled into the actual operating room. Mateo runs back to his father's office looking for help, trying to reach Natalie. And his voice is picked up by a device that Natalie left behind when she was there, and she soon arrives, as does Bruno. Kyle and Lana talk with Sarah, and the three of them are worried about her, including Sarah. Kyle tells her that he knows what it's like to feel like all is lost after making mistakes, and he suggests that Sarah take a job at the diner, seeing as they're hiring, so that she'll feel like she has some kind of purpose and doesn't feel directionless, I guess. And it'll help her somewhat feel in control, he says, which I think is kind of a bad idea, because if she's kind of like not handling everything on her plate, why would you give her one more thing? It didn't make sense to me. I didn't get that. Like, why would you want her to have to balance one more thing? That's kind of important. I didn't see the logic there. Anyway, John also shows up at Mannheim's place, and after a little bit of terse conversation with Bruno, he says he's willing to help with Pia's situation. And Her situation is not great. She's in the middle of Metropolis. Her powers are completely out of control and it's wreaking tons of havoc. At which point, Superman shows up to try to help her, but she doesn't think he can. And when she screams in pain, the shockwave actually sends Superman flying, like he's blasted way far away from her by the, wave that she lets out. Mateo asks Natalie to fly him to where his mother is, but Natalie refuses because she thinks it'll kill him, which isn't necessarily not true. Superman tries again to get to Pia. I'm not sure what he was going to do if he got right up to her to help her because she's suffering from something internal. But I guess he figured trying to get to her was better than not doing anything. Maybe he could talk her down or whatever and help her get her powers in control by talking to her somehow. I don't know what he was thinking, but he can't actually get close because her ability is radiating out from her just intensely. And she says that she knows what's going to happen, but she's afraid to leave Mateo and Bruno. At which point, Superman tells her that they wouldn't want her to suffer and that it's okay to let go. And then her powers, her thing that's radiating out of her relents a little bit, and he's able to make it to her. But all she can do is whisper something to him before he lifts off with her into the lower atmosphere. At which point, she does in fact let go. And after a final gigantic burst of her abilities, her powers, that shakes the whole city, even from way up in the sky, Superman flies back down with her body and brings her to Mateo and Bruno. And he tells them that what she told him was that she loved the two of them forever and always as they weep over her body. It was pretty intense. We see that Sarah gets hired at the diner, that Lois is moved to recovery, and Clark and the boys have to break the news to her about Pia. Kyle makes up with Chrissy, saying that it was wrong of him to react the way he did and give her a hard time for protecting Clark and Jordan's secret. In custody, Bruno offers to tell the DOD everything in exchange for charges against Mateo being dropped, which I think is fair. But before the episode ends, and just when we thought everything might be okie dokie smoky, with 2 episodes left in the season, we see finally that Bizarro, who I've been asking about for weeks, like, what are they going to do with Bizarro, wake up and leave his containment unit or whatever he was in. And that's where the episode ended. So I thought this was a really good episode and that it really wrapped up the, plot that was started at the beginning of the season where Mannheim was experimenting with these dudes who, he was giving them abilities and bringing them back from the dead in some cases so that they could help him gather information because he was trying to find a cure for Pia, who had cancer. And at the same time, she's this, sound wave emitting enhanced person as well, who, can even give Superman a run for his money. And I thought, the way that this whole plot evolved over the season was really good. They figure out that it's her after a while. And over the course of it, she and Lois actually get to be good friends because really and truly, Pia's a good person who's just made some mistakes, who loves her family and her friends, including Lois. And you get to see that Mannheim is also not a complete monster. He really loves his wife and his son. And really, what he was trying to do was help people, even though he kind of was a criminal about it. And, the two of them framed Lex Luthor, which, is real life, right? I mean, people are complicated. People are not one dimensional being. So, to see that reflected in a drama show is what you want. You want to see people that are multidimensional and complicated. You don't want, your heroes to be perfect, and you don't want necessarily your villains to be completely unredeemable. I think when they show humans humaning, and just going through what life throws at them and dealing with it however they deal with it, while maybe not necessarily wanting to have these flaws that they have to whatever extent they have them, minor or major, because it's relatable. That's real life. And in a show like this, it's exaggerated to the point where there are people dying from superpowers and stuff, being inflicted upon them. But that's the comic book aspect of it. So I just thought it was really good, and I thought everybody did a great job acting wise. The actress that played Pia, I really, really, really felt for her, especially at the end when she was just holding on to life, trying not to let the cancer overtake her, and it was causing her so much pain that she couldn't control her abilities, and she was hurting people, but she didn't want to hurt people. She just wanted to get out of Metropolis with her family. And in the end, when Superman tells her, I know you don't want to leave your family behind, but you're hurting people. And you're also hurting yourself, which your family wouldn't want. You've got to let go. And she finally does for the betterment of her family and everybody else, and allows herself to be, taken out by the cancer or whatever the pain she gives into it. And I just thought it was beautiful. And the scene when Superman's trying to get to her, he's trying to help her because he doesn't want her to suffer either. Even though really it's about saving the people around her, but he's also, if he could have helped her and changed her fate, he would have. And he was trying to get to her, even though it was difficult. And even though he could have just lasered her, he didn't. And the way they shot it and the special effects were just unbelievable in that scene. It was just really, really, really well done. At the same time, you had Lois unable to be there for her friend. And, you've sort of felt the anguish of that. I also thought the plot involving Sarah and Jordan was well done. I think it's great that they showed that it's affecting her, that because her own feelings changed or whatever, she's losing a friend, and or thinks she's losing a friend and feels, heartbroken over it. And I think it's great that they showed that because that's real life. And I just and again, the actors played it well. They're just kids, but they really played it well. So I was happy about that. And so I'm looking forward to next week. I can't wait to see what they do with Bizarro. I can't wait to see what they do with Lex Luthor. It's going to be awesome. And I'll be back to review that episode once it airs. I'm going to get out of here for now, but until I return, I wish you peace and long life.